Well, we've got a treat for you today because we're one of the first to come to the new Orchid House here at Longwood Gardens. And right next to me is Greg Griffiths, who is the curator of these wonderful plants. So, why orchids?
Orchids are a phenomenal and fantastic group of plants. There's so much diversity, there's something for everyone, and you could never get bored of orchids. There's always something new to be found.
And what convinced me of what a wonderful kind of house plant is the fact that they can flower for so long.
Absolutely. Things like a Phalaenopsis, they can last 2 to 3 months in flower from first open to last closed. And even something like an Oncidium, or many of the more common orchids, last 2 weeks to a month at least.
Brilliant. Now, I have to say, my experience is I've killed 2. I'm not doing very well, so I'm obviously doing something wrong.
Well, you're actually in great company. Most people have killed as many as they've kept. I find for most people, it's simply that there are small bits of information that you've never been given.
All right.
Nobody ever told you this one thing, which is of course exactly what you did, and that's why I didn't have success.
Gotcha. So take me through some basic pointers when it comes to looking after orchids.
The number one enemy of orchids is opportunistic fungi or rot. And so standing water and orchids don't go together well.
Gotcha.
They don't want to sit in water, and we don't want to leave water sitting in leaf axils or on the leaves overnight.
So in terms of the dryness, you've got to go back to their native habitat, which would be where?
Orchids come from every continent on the planet except Antarctica. So depending on which one you're looking at, depends on where it comes from. Most of what you commonly see is tropical. And so generally 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, intermediate light, a good east window, a slightly shaded south window, and adequate, ambient humidity is adequate for them.
Now you have such things as orchid pots, and I'm looking here and I don't see orchid pots. Orchid pots have the big holes in it and allow the drainage, or?
Oftentimes those pots with all those holes in them are far too drying. And so if you plant your orchid in them, it's going to desiccate so quickly you'll never be able to keep up with the watering unless you had it in a greenhouse and could water it every day. Okay. Orchids are generally drier growing than other plants, but it doesn't mean that they don't like water.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're there. I can think of 2 reasons now why I've finished my ones off. In terms of getting them to flower, now when you buy them, typically you see Phalaenopsis at supermarkets or any flower store, and they flower for a long time and then nothing seems to happen. You just got green leaves.
Yes.
What should you be doing?
Actually, the same thing you were doing before. So most people don't realize most orchids flower once a year, especially in the northern part of the United States.
Okay.
Our winter season puts them into a dormancy, which is generally when they flower, and then they spring, summer, fall growing just to flower again. If you get a Phalaenopsis in flower in the middle of the summer, it may take 2 years to sync up with our season since it's been forced out of season. So generally, if you continue to water approximately once a week and you have a decent window that it can get enough light, it should flower for you in time.
Gotcha. And then you may have 2 months of flowers.
Absolutely.
Lucky.
Yes, well worth the work and the wait.
All right, what about soil and fertilizer?
The best medium for an orchid is usually an orchid bark mix. Most growers are using bark, charcoal, and perlite, and you can find these available at most retail orchid growers.
Perlite's the little white stuff you see in the soil mix.
It is, exactly. And the charcoal and the perlite help to hold it open so that your orchid doesn't get waterlogged and rot. And then in terms of pots, the best choice usually is a plastic growing pot.
Seriously?
It is. Generally, the plastic is good for holding in humidity. It's also very versatile, they're cheap, and they're available. So if you want to put your orchid in a really beautiful decorative pot, I usually say pot it in a plastic growing pot, or maybe a terracotta pot, depending on what it is, and then sleeve it inside that more beautiful pot.
So these are probably in sleeves, is that fair to say?
That is correct, yep.
Okay, so this is a renovated orchid house. What have they actually done?
So basically they did everything. We stripped it down to the fundamental columns. They repaired and patched and matched perfectly the concrete there. We re-poured the floor, and we developed brand new gate structures for the walls that are in line with what was there before, but have been elevated significantly.
Something new, something old.
Exactly, yes.
Brilliant.
True to our core, but innovation all over the place.
Brilliant. And potentially you can put 500 orchids in flower here.
That's right. About now we have between 250 and 300 on display, but as the collection grows, we have the capacity to put up to 500 on these walls.
And what's the best time to visit? Or are you working out that all year? is the best time to visit?
All year is the best time to visit the Orchid House. These plants are here year-round. We have a collection of about 5,000 plants that just feed this display. Actually, what we've done is just designed the collection so that according to their natural seasons, there are always about 300 in flower.
Excellent. So if you want to know about orchids, this is a place to head towards, yeah?
We would be more than happy to educate anybody that comes through our
He
doors.
seems like a nice chap as well, so.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you ever so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.